The line opened at Tech plus 13.5. It is now down to Tech plus 10.5, meaning it's also up to Florida State plus 10, or excuse me, Florida State minus 10.5 right now. Listen, I think Florida State's winning this game, even with the backslide with the loss of talent. 10.5 seems to be around the number I like, but I'm keeping an eye on it because I do think if there is another rush of Georgia Tech money, and this is also why if I'm pulling the trigger on this bet, Jeremy Conn, I'm pulling the trigger a minute before kickoff, right? This is going to be a slide in at the checkered flag kind of bet, or even a hold on and bet it live kind of bet. If I can get people to really start to feel Georgia Tech and get that thing down to 10 even, where the push is on the table, or 9.5, because I do think FSU is winning by double digits. If I can wait that thing out, and Vegas is adjusting for a ton of Georgia Tech money coming in at the last minute, that's how I'm going to play it. Do you have any sort of triggers that you look? Is there anything in the formula, in the algorithm that you look that maybe puts up a red flag that, hey, people are going one direction? Because I'm like you. I don't bet the fade, the public fade, for the sake of betting the public fade. There's got to be something that triggers that this is a good fade for me. When it comes to college football, is there anything that you look for that you go, oh, maybe this is a good opportunity for a public fade? Because I'll tell you one of them for me, 80%. If I get the numbers from BetMGM that says 80% of the money's coming in one direction, there's a reason the line is set for that to happen. 80%'s a number. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, that's a trigger for me.
We are talking a little bit about week 0 here. We're going to talk a lot about it today. With you being down in that area, or at least near it, seeing DJ up close and personal, how do you think he's going to look at Florida State?
DJ's such an interesting case, because I will say there's going to be a handful of games this year, and I do think that this weekend is one of them. Not every game for Florida State's going to be this way. There are a few of them that are, and I do think the Georgia Tech game is one of them, because I really like what Brent Key is doing for the Rec right now. I think this is a Georgia Tech team that's on an upward trajectory. I'm not saying, they're in the mix for the ACC title or anything ridiculous like that, but I do think it's going to be a better team. And Haynes King, by the way, Haynes King's a real deal dude at quarterback for the Rec. So I'd keep an eye. There's going to be some points, some opportunities to win some money with Georgia Tech down the line, right? So I am looking at this game, and I am saying, if you are taking Florida State, who, by the way, opened as a 13.5-point favorite, that line has been bet down to 10.5 points at this point. I'll tell you what, I'm waiting on this line. I have not taken this game yet. I'm waiting on this line because what I'd really like, Jeremy Conn, I'd really like that to get down to an even 10. I'd really like to see some money hammered in on on Georgia Tech last minute, and see that line go to an even 10, or maybe even, fingers crossed, a 9.5, and take the push off the table. But I think this game is predicated on what you think DJ Uiagalelei is for the Noles. Here's where I fall on this kid. He goes to Clemson at a point in time where Clemson was quarterback U. They had a run of great quarterbacks: Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, they hit on guy after guy after guy after guy for like 7 straight years there. And then here comes DJ Uiagalelei. DJ Uiagalelei, a 5-star recruit, bona fide certified G. He's the guy. He's the man. I think there was a problem with DJ Uiagalelei, and I've actually gotten into a fight on the air about it with his dad, Big Dave Uiagalelei, because I think Big Dave taught DJ how to be a brand before he taught him how to be a quarterback, right? Like, I think he taught him how to talk, how to smile, how to do interviews, how to be polite. And DJ Uiagalelei was all those things. I interviewed him twice for Clemson at ACC Media Days, and both days, I got to tell you, man, he's an easy interview to do. He gets it. He knows how to fill your answers up with like good quality stuff without giving away anything. He's a great interview, and he's a super polite young man. But I think he learned how to be a brand, not a quarterback. And I think he rolled up into Clemson thinking, all I got to do is put that Tiger Paw helmet on and I'm the next star, right? All I got to do is strap on that white, orange, and purple uni, and I'm the next Heisman Trophy finalist. And then all of a sudden, oh God, would you look at that? College football is pretty hard. It's not easy to play quarterback at a Power 5 university, but there was so much pressure on him that when things started going wrong very quickly, I don't think he had the mentality to respond. So then he goes to Oregon State. Well, good news. Ain't no pressure at Oregon State. Nobody was expecting anything out of you at Oregon State. Nobody was expecting a Heisman Trophy finalist race. Nobody was expecting a conference win at Oregon State. So DJ had a year last year, Jeremy, where he basically got to go play ball at a place where ball is taken seriously, but the expectations weren't through the moon like they were at Clemson, and learn how to develop, learn how to be a quarterback. So which DJ's going to win out, right? Because now he goes back to Florida State, and let's call it what it is. There's absolutely expectations on him and in Tallahassee. Florida State expects to be back in the hunt for the ACC this year. Florida State expects to be a playoff team this year. Florida State, even with all the transfers out, lost their QB, lost RB1, lost their top 2 wide receivers, lost the most utilitarian tight end in Jay Bell. Florida State still, despite all of that, has expectations. So the question is, do you believe that 1 year in Corvallis, do you believe that 1 year being a college quarterback in a spot where there was not a lot of pressure, where there was no expectations, do you believe it gave DJ Uiagalelei enough time to develop, to learn how to play the position, to learn to handle pressure and criticism in a positive way and dial it in on the football field? And my answer to that question, Jeremy Conn, is I got no damn clue, so I can't touch this game as much as I want to bet it because I just don't know. I saw games out of DJU at both Oregon State and Clemson where you could see the flashes of that 5-star talent. You can see the big arm. You can see the wheels and him moving. And then I saw other games at both Clemson and Oregon State where you could see a little panic. You could see a little unpreparedness. You could see a little bit of questioning himself and some poor decision-making because of it. So the reality here is, even after I've seen the spring, and we've seen some good stuff out of DJU this spring, I just don't know. I hope it has. I hope that that time in Corvallis, I hope that time allowed him to take off the be a brand cap and put on the be a quarterback cap and have learned something. But I don't know that I'm ready to put my money on the answer to that being yes, he did, Jeremy Conn.
Yeah, so I think all that's interesting. I know I'm going to be on the Ramblin' Wreck this weekend. I'm a little upset at myself that I'm not getting it at the best number, but you know what? That's what happens. It's week 1 or week 0. But I'm a big spot guy, and I hope people understand what I'm saying. Like in college football, early in the season, NFL early in the season, Major League Baseball, as one of my old co-hosts used to say, pick a bad team. We were talking about the Patriots. You don't want to play the Patriots in week 1. You want to play them in week 10 when they know they're the freaking Patriots and they stink. And I feel that way in college. Like starting the season off, everybody thinks they're into it, whether that's just total visions of grandeur or not. So I think a lot of the home openers are really big advantages. I think there's more of an advantage in night games than there is in afternoon games, especially with the crowd out tailgating all day. If they don't black out, they're into it at night. Certain stadiums have their own kind of appeal. If you want to talk about Virginia Tech and the music that's played when guys are coming out, jump around in Wisconsin. There's so many different things that you can get to that I think are really cool about different stadiums and places you play. But I am a big spot guy, and I think first game of the season, I like Georgia Tech here plus the points. I'm seeing a lot of public money come in on Florida State. You're talking about the line moving in the other direction. It's pretty interesting to see. But also looking at it, I think it's something where if you're talking about spots, you can look for the look-ahead game somewhere in the season. If Alabama's playing Auburn next week or whatever, maybe that's not a great example this season. But you get what I'm saying. You get a lower-level opponent or somebody that you can possibly look ahead. I think college players do it more. I don't think we see it that much in the NFL or in other sports, but I love the spots. I love looking at where teams are playing, how many road games, where are you going, what the travel look like. And these are things that I don't think a lot of people look at, but it's important to me.
Good money coming in on Georgia Tech earlier. It slowed down a little bit. Last I checked, our friends at BetMGM said that about 55% of the handle now coming in on Florida State minus 10.5. Man, the Noles lost a lot. They lose their quarterback, their number one rusher, their top two wide receivers, Jaheim Bell, their tight end. They lose Jared Verse. They lose a ton of defense. Mike Norvell is a wizard, Ari, when it comes to the portal. But, man, I'm just a little shaky on Florida State right now, both season long and if I want to play this 10.5 number for the Noles. What say you, Double D?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good that number is all the way down to 10.5 because I'm sitting on a Georgia Tech 11.5 ticket. I really am looking forward to seeing what Georgia Tech is. And I know that's not what you asked. That's probably not what you were hoping for because the story is Florida State. They get robbed of the college football playoff. Robbed, I guess, in air quotes. I mean, look, their quarterback got hurt. They weren't going to stand a chance to whoever they played against, but they get left out of the college football playoff, and now they bring back all of these – they bring all of these new guys in, but you bring back to the ACC DJ Uiagalelei, who at one point felt like the prodigal son at Clemson, the heir apparent to what Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson had done there, and then fell absolutely short. So, like, all the focus, it feels like, should be on Florida State. But, guys, I'm sitting here looking at Georgia Tech saying, this might be the year where they're not going to win the game. I don't anticipate them to pull the upset of all upsets and beat Florida State in Dublin, but I think they're going to be a good enough team to get out of the bottom of the barrel of the ACC and kind of, I'm a wrestling guy. Rob, you're a wrestling guy. They're working their way up into the mid-card of the ACC to where they could be a challenge for a lot of the teams. And that double-digit number, when you take into consideration it's the first game of the season, you're going to expect a little bit of rust from really everybody, but especially a team in Florida State that has so much new. You're going transatlantic over to Dublin. Now, their travel started, I think, almost a week ago at this point, so they've had some time to adjust to life over there in Ireland. But there's a lot of factors playing into this, and what I keep going back to is which team has the most returning from last year? Who does it feel like will have an easier job hitting the ground running? And I look at Georgia Tech in that regard. So I'm glad that line is coming down. It lets me know I'm in a good spot with my Georgia Tech 11.5. But I'm excited for the game. I do think, though, I think a lot of people are going to learn some things about Georgia Tech that they maybe weren't privy to beforehand.